Hello and welcome to Conversations with Ruth. I am Ruth. I am also known as Notorious RVG. During the time I worked with ACLU, I encountered legal aid attorneys and was always impressed with their dedication and good work. I realized that I do not know much about legal aid of North Carolina. I have wondered what legal aid really is. How is legal aid able to serve all those that are eligible for its services? That legal aid not only provides services in specific areas, but to target populations, such as veterans, seniors, Native Americans, and victims of trafficking. Equally important is what are the services legal aid provides? Well, to answer those questions, I ask that you join me in a series of interviews about getting to know legal aid of North Carolina. I promise you that I and you together, we will learn what legal aid is and what services it provides. Welcome to Conversations with Ruth. I am Ruth, and I know some of you call me RVG, but I really prefer to be called Justice. Today's conversation is part of our series, Getting to Know Legal Aid. We will be talking about not the areas of law of legal aid, but about special populations, such as veterans. Today we're going to be talking about veterans' benefits. And legal aid's goal in this area is to promote economic security for veterans. I understand it targets its resources to homeless veterans and veterans who are disabled. I want to know more than just that legal aid helps veterans. I want to know what legal aid does. So today, we have Kirk Warner here with us. Thank you for coming, Kirk.
Thank you, Madam Justice.
I'm delighted to have you here. Kirk is a partner with Smith Anderson, and he's also a retired colonel of the U.S. Army. So perfect combination for today, because I need both. I need a lawyer that knows about veterans. So Kirk, let's start with some of the basics. I would like to know, who is a veteran? Who is considered to be a veteran?
Well, various agencies think differently, but ultimately anyone who's served in the armed forces of the United States, currently and in the past, are veterans. And those folks that are on active duty currently technically are veterans, but they're under a different system and have legal assistance available to them since they're serving on active duty. In North Carolina, we have approximately 120,000 of those folks that are currently active duty serving and reservists that all have some availability of legal assistance. The veteran side of the house are those that have been discharged, who have previously served. And remarkably, in this state, we have about 750,000 veterans that would qualify for veteran status at the Veterans Administration for health care and for other benefits. And then among those, a percentage of those are disabled. And of course, many of which qualify for legal aid support.
Right. Well, I'm not surprised having so many military bases here.
Well, it's about 1 in 8 adults, which is pretty remarkable.
Yes, yes. So you mentioned that they get legal assistance, I imagine, through the veteran services. So when veterans contact legal aid, what are the common issues they seek help with?
a variety of things. First of all, probably the foremost request is for assistance in their benefits from the Veterans Administration, where they've been declared or believe they're disabled in some way because of their service. Legal aid supports that after reviewing their files, often applies for disability benefits, or sometimes, and is often the case, a veteran comes in that is receiving benefits already but believes they're entitled to more under the Veterans Administration system, or their disability has changed somewhat, unfortunately for the worse most of the time. So legal aid then looks at that record and then applies and helps push the veteran's benefit through, an upgrade to it, enhancing it, or sometimes then the appeal side of the house comes in if there's we believe there's more benefits available, that justice has not been done on the application by the veteran. We'll file an appeal to the Veterans Board of Appeals, and hopefully then present the case for an upgrade or a recognition of disability benefits for the veterans. That's probably the biggest area. Another area is discharge upgrades. This is really, really an important part of what legal aid does. The studies are pretty remarkable that there's some correlation between suicide in the veteran population, which is higher than most of the public population, and discharge upgrades. They're discharged. So we call those people that come out that don't have an honorable or a general under honorable conditions. It's called bad paper. That means they have other than honorable discharge or a bad conduct discharge or even a dishonorable discharge. Those folks in the last three categories, what we call bad paper, are not entitled to benefits under the VA system unless we can get their discharges upgraded to at least a general discharge. So that is the focus of a lot of effort for legal aid as well. And then additionals, the general population has homelessness issues, so homing is involved. A lot of times family issues that we sometimes get involved in, often refer out. Family, if there's a discharge, either divorce or some type of separation issues.
Yes.
Legal aid doesn't do as much of that, but we certainly get them in the right direction. Issue, particularly in this day and age with PTSD being a prevalent
and
percentage of folks.
I understand, Kirk, that legal aid limits a lot of the services on this category to disabled veterans whose conduct was related to the disability, typically mental disability or sexual trauma.
Both of those come into play, and that's true. Oftentimes the PTSD, the overlay, if they've served downrange in the war since 9/11 and in Vietnam, the PTSD is often a significant cause of the issue for which they were discharged. For example, if they were AWOL, absent without leave, or they've had misconduct or had drug and alcohol abuse, and that was the basis of it, but the underlying problem was PTSD. It's clearly service-connected, and there's a change in the philosophy in the Veterans Administration and in the Department of Defense to go back and take a look at those people that have served downrange and try to upgrade them and get them so that they can get the support and help. That's what legal aid steps in.
Right. And I don't want to forget the pensions, because I understand that also legal aid is contacted when their pensions have been reduced or terminated.
There's an interplay.
What's the process?
Yeah, there's an interplay between disability and pension, and often disability payments come out of pension, and there's a balance that's struck as to whether you have a pension plus a disability payment, but often the disability affects the pension, or in general they're entitled to a higher pension to start with. More likely the disability or something has affected the pension. Legal aid goes to bat for those people to help get them what type of pension they're entitled to. So that gets them more in an economic stance, which gets them out of homelessness issues, which gets them out of trouble generally, keeps them at home, keeps the families intact. All of that ripple effect is just a bonus of how legal aid is really paying its weight.
And you have mentioned a few times homelessness. My clerk did some research, and I find interesting that legal aid has started a project where they go to homeless shelters and volunteers help veterans and interview them there. Those are populations very hard to reach.
Absolutely. And legal aid reaches out to veterans in multiple ways. One is to go to the homeless shelters because there's a pretty significant number of veterans
we all have heard
that are homeless, and legal aid is part of many groups that are trying to solve that, and they do a great job reaching out. In addition, legal aid reaches veterans as well in the veterans medical centers. There's been legal clinics that are starting up. They meet on certain days, monthly, quarterly. Legal aid reaches out and helps run those clinics to touch all the veterans that are there that may not know the services are out there, or may not know that there's additional support and benefits and assistance that legal aid can help them get.
Kirk, would it be fair to conclude that this is a very specialized area of practice? You have mentioned the Board of Veterans Appeals, the U.S. Court of Veterans. How is legal aid, who handles so many different areas of law, able to maintain the specialization to help veterans?
Well, one is their passion and that they want to do it, so they'll go the extra yard to get accredited with the VA appeals system and disability system, which requires a certain continuing legal education every year on disability appeals and on the disability system. There's an initial accreditation phase of that. In order to maintain that, they continue to get to CLEs and in fact are oftentimes instructors in it. They bring in other people to assist, to come in volunteers to legal aid. They help train, put on those programs so that the specialized training and knowledge gets passed on so that others, they can kind of amplify what they can provide to our veterans.
Okay. Well, Kirk, this is all the time we have. It has been very valuable, fantastic. I have learned about veterans, and I needed to learn that. Thank you so much for your help. And for all of you that join us, I want to invite you for future episodes in which we will continue trying to answer that question: what is legal aid and what it does? Thank you.